Hello, church. Welcome back to the study in the book of Judges. And today I'll be going over chapter 13. And I'll be reading the first 5 verses, but I'll be going over the entire chapter. This is the word of God. Again, the Israelites did evil in the eyes of the Lord. So the Lord delivered them into the hands of the Philistines for 40 years. A certain man of Zorah named Manoah from the clan of the Danites had a wife who was childless, unable to give birth. The angel of the Lord appeared to her and said, "You are barren and childless, but you are going to become pregnant and give birth to a son. Now see to it that you drink no wine or other fermented drink, and that you do not eat anything unclean. You will become pregnant and have a son whose head is never to be touched by a razor, because the boy is to be a Nazirite, dedicated to God from the womb. He will take the lead in delivering Israel from the hands of the Philistines." So once again, this chapter opens up with that famous verse that says, they did evil in the sight of the Lord. And actually, this is going to be the last time that you hear this phrase. But anyways, in this trial, the Lord gave the Israelites into the hands of the Philistines for 40 years. So it's going to be a very long time being oppressed. And just think about how they're feeling, right? 40 long years. Looking back, they knew it was 40 years that they lasted that long, but you don't know being in there how long it's going to take. Will this ever end? Is the Lord really going to rescue us again? We've sinned against him so many times and he's rescued us. Maybe he's finally going to let this continue on and this is it. We're going to be oppressed. Or maybe he won't anymore. Maybe he will rescue us one more time. And like I said, you won't see this phrase anymore. This phrase is telling us that what the Israelites are doing is evil in the sight of the Lord. In the eyes of the Israelites, this behavior is actually good. It's not evil. So again, in the eyes of the Lord, it's telling us that ultimately sin isn't about violating our own personal standards, but actually it's violating God's will, because this is evil in God's sight. He's the one that determines what is right and what is wrong. And that's exactly what we experience today with all this, moral relativism. It's whatever's right in my own eyes, and that's it. So if our own eyes are not sufficient for defining what sin is, then who can really tell us what sin is, what wrong is? But we know that the Lord, He's the one that defines that. He's the divine lawgiver, so he can tell us what sin is, and it really doesn't matter how we feel. It's whatever he decides, since he is our creator. And of course, the problem is that sin is truly deceitful towards us. Like it says in Jeremiah, that the heart is deceitful and desperately wicked. That's what our hearts are. And we see that in the Israelites. The entire group is kind of like in a denial of their sin. And so in their own eyes, what they thought they were doing it's good, it's okay. But deep down, they didn't have any true defense for their sinful lifestyle. But of course, we're the same too. We always try to find a way to rationalize our sin and those idols that live in our hearts. And sometimes we think that these little sins that there are okay in our own eyes. But in God's eyes, we know that it is evil. But anyways, now let's jump into the text. So starting in verses 2 to 5, here we see that God sets into motion the salvation of his people. So he's actually going to try to rescue them one more time. And this time he chooses Manoah and uses Manoah's wife, who was childless and couldn't bear children, to bear a son, to bear the next judge, which we know to be Samson. And he's the one who will deliver God's people once again. Samson will actually be the last judge, and he is the only judge that was chosen before he was even born. So in these opening verses, the angel of the Lord appears to Manoah's wife and gives her instructions, telling her that you're going to be pregnant, you're going to give birth to a son, and so this is what you have to do. And what he gives in verse 4 is actually coming from the book of Numbers. This is called the Nazirite vow. Samson is supposed to be born a Nazirite, so this is why his mother needed to follow specific instructions. And in the book of Numbers, someone who did this Nazirite vow did it for a certain period of time voluntarily. It was a time where you are focused and giving more attention towards God than you normally do, so that you can get something in return. It's like getting a special type of help from God, or you're asking for a special type of help from God. But notice here that this was done involuntarily, since it was before Samson was even born. So he's already set apart for God in the womb. And the story of Samson's birth, this should remind us, of course, of other birth stories in the Bible. We see here that his birth was a miracle since, of course, his mother wasn't able to conceive. She was childless. So it's a miracle here. This isn't the last time that God uses a childless woman to perform the impossible, to make this miracle of childbirth. And every time this happens, it's actually a picture of our salvation. That's what we should get from this, because this birth only came from the hands of God. And so only the Lord gives life, and only the Lord gives salvation. Now looking at verses 6-7, it says, then the woman went to her husband and told him, a man of God came to me. He looked like an angel of God, very awesome. I didn't ask him where he came from, and he didn't tell me his name. But he said to me, you will become pregnant and have a son. Now then, drink no wine or other fermented drink, and do not eat anything unclean, because the boy will be a Nazarite of God from the womb until his death. So unlike in Genesis, Abraham's wife, Sarah, she didn't believe that she was going to give birth. She even joked about it. Like, no, there's no way. It's impossible. But here, Manoah's wife, she acted differently. She right away trusted this message from the Lord that she really will give birth to a son. And she also did as she was commanded to do. So she obeyed the Lord right away. And this is just a picture of what a genuine faith should look like. Now in verses 8-12, it says, then Manoah prayed to the Lord, pardon your servant, Lord. I beg you to let the man of God you sent to us come again to teach us how to bring up the boy who is to be born. God heard Manoah, and the angel of God came again to the woman while she was out in the field. But her husband Manoah was not with her. The woman hurried to tell her husband, he is here, the man who appeared to me that day. Manoah got up and followed his wife. When he came to the man, he said, are you the man who talked to my wife? I am, he said. So Manoah asked him, when your words are fulfilled, what is to be the rule that governs the boy's life and work? So here, Manoah also shows faith in God's promise. He knows and believes that he will finally have a child and it will be a boy. And so he's asking for the angel of the Lord to return. And that shows that he trusts God. And he wants the angel of the Lord to return so that he can get further instructions on how to raise this child, which makes sense. It's their first child. They don't know what to do. They're ecstatic. And so they want to know, okay, this is truly from God. This is God's gift. What else do we need to know in order to take care of this boy? And that's why he asked for that the angel of the Lord to return. Okay, now let's jump to verses 13-18. The angel of the Lord answered, your wife must do all that I have told her. She must not eat anything that comes from the grapevine, nor drink any wine or any fermented drink, nor eat anything unclean. She must do everything I have commanded her to do. So the angel of the Lord just repeats what he already instructed. So there's no new information given. Verse 15. Manoah said to the angel of the Lord, we would like you to stay until we prepare a young goat for you. The angel of the Lord replied, even though you detain me, I will not eat any of your food. But if you prepare a burnt offering, offer it to the Lord. Manoah did not realize that this was the angel of the Lord. Then Manoah inquired of the angel of the Lord, what is your name so that we may honor you when your word comes true? He replied, why do you ask my name? It is beyond understanding. So Manoah here is trying to do anything possible to try to get more information. That's why he wanted the angel of the Lord to return to get further instruction to really take care of this boy. But he doesn't realize that this is the angel of the Lord. And this makes sense why the angel of the Lord will not eat with them or give his name, because this isn't any ordinary messenger from God. And so the angel of the Lord is not obligated to give any new information, which includes his name. And now let's look at verses 19-20. Then Manoah took a young goat together with the grain offering and sacrificed it on a rock to the Lord. And the Lord did an amazing thing while Manoah and his wife watched. As the flame blazed up from the altar toward heaven, the angel of the Lord ascended in the flame. Seeing this, Manoah and his wife fell with their faces to the ground. Before this, you might have asked, if the angel of the Lord was not going to give any more information and not even his own name, then why even show up again? It was to display first God's power and also God's goodness. Let's continue on from verse 21. When the angel of the Lord did not show himself again to Manoah and his wife, Manoah realized that it was the angel of the Lord. Verse 22. We are doomed to die, he said to his wife. We have seen God. Verse 23. But his wife answered, If the Lord had meant to kill us, he would not have accepted a burnt offering and a grain offering from our hands, nor shown us all these things, or now told us this. So now Manoah realizes they have seen God. This is truly the angel of the Lord. And Manoah probably knew the Old Testament, which was that nobody can draw near to God and also live. So that's why he's freaking out. But notice that his wife actually remains calm. She actually gets it right here, which is that they knew that they were sinners. She knew that they were sinners. So God could have killed them, and God would have been just to do so. So we see that they were spared when he left. And of course, the angel of the Lord just left. He didn't give them any new information, or they didn't get what they wanted, any more instruction on how to raise their son. So he displayed his glory, and that's all they needed to raise up Samson. God was saying to them, you don't need any more information or instruction or direction. You don't need a rule book that tells you everything you need to know. Just look to me. Behold my glory, and this is all the guidance you will ever need. And this is true for us as well. It applies to us. We foolishly look for answers elsewhere when we already have everything that's been revealed to us in his word. Everything we need to know is there. The Lord Jesus has given himself to us. His word has been given to us, and the Spirit is given to us and now dwells with us, and yet we look elsewhere. But here, this story is telling us that we don't need anything else. We just need to behold the glory of God. And now we end this chapter in verses 24 and 25, which says, The woman gave birth to a boy and named him Samson. He grew, and the Lord blessed him, and the Spirit of the Lord began to stir him while he was in Mananadan, between Zorah and Estaol. So now we see that Samson is born, and he's already blessed. He's already blessed by God as the Spirit works in him. He's been set apart by God, so now he has everything he needs to be that last judge of Israel, their last hope. Anyways, that concludes chapter 13 in the book of Judges. I pray that it has been a blessing to you. So thank you for listening, and God bless.